Hello everybody, welcome along. My name is Benjamin Bloom. This is the Benjamin Bloom Football Channel and it is season review number 21 in the series. Look, I know the new season's nearly started, but I promised myself I'd get all 24 championship teams done. As I say, I've probably done your team. The chances are, if this is number 21, that I have, so go and check elsewhere on the channel. But today we will do Sheffield Wednesday. So let's have a look at Sheffield Wednesday's 1920 season, and in order to set the context we do need to just go back to January the 2nd there, 2019, and Steve Bruce is hired as their new manager. Highly experienced and tenured championship manager is Bruce. Failed in the playoff final at Aston Villa and then didn't last the autumn really there, but very well thought of amongst championship owners. Steve Bruce always gets hired, doesn't he? Some personal problems. He lost both his parents, so taking some time out, agrees the job, but he's going to come at the start of February. And boy, does he arrive. That's the last 18 games of the season, and Sheffield Wednesday were, under Steve Bruce's tenure, the 5th best team in the championship for those final 18 games. They ultimately finished 11th, but you can see Leeds had their slip, and it was just the rest of the actual top 6 there, and a fairly good sample size of 18 games. So Bruce going in, taking what he had. Josh Lukai had kind of lost it there, hadn't he, going into December, and did a really decent job there to have Wednesday finishing as the 5th best team in those last 18 games. And in the table, they finish in 11th spot and they're 10 points off the playoffs. So slap bang in the middle, but encouraging for Wednesday fans, encouraging for the owner, Mr. Chansiri. He thinks he's got himself a stable, tenured championship manager who has the club functioning well. However, there is only one job, Steve Bruce said, that he would walk away for, and that is his boyhood club, Newcastle. Mike Ashley doesn't want to renew Rafa Benitez, and he wants to take Steve Bruce. We know what Ashley's like. He wants the safest, pragmatic pair of hands that will keep Newcastle in the Premier League and keep that 100 million quid TV money coming every single year. And Bruce, rightly or wrongly, whatever you think, put yourself in his position and make your judgment. It's your boyhood club and you want the chance to go and manage them in the Premier League. Off he goes. Sheffield Wednesday without a manager. Lee Bullen is going to take it temporarily. I believe, fact check me in the comments please, I believe he'd done the caretaker job pre-Lahukai as well at Sheffield Wednesday. Sorry if I'm wrong about that. He is going to start the season. They're not going to be able to do a new deal for a new manager prior to the season starting. So it makes the recruitment a little bit sort of wobbly when you don't know who your manager is, but you're still recruiting. It's kind of like, well, who's doing it and who's signing it off? So a bit of a weird scenario there. Out goes Lucas Yao, who actually plays and scores in the first game of the season for Sheffield Wednesday. Good fee that, given that he'd been inconsistent through his time there, and a profit, I believe. 5 million quid out goes Yao to Reading. Also out go Pudel, Boyd, Kirby, Stobbs, Van Aken and Penny. In come experienced championship central midfield hand Massimo Luongo for around £1 million. Decent age, decent fee, decent experience, decent player. Sounds fine to me. On freeze, Kadeem Harris, a winger from Cardiff. Julian Berner, a centre half from Bundesliga 2. Moses Odebajo, a very experienced championship right back, who I believe was at Brentford. They gave him a free and then they signed him back and then he ends up at Sheffield Wednesday. Paul Jones, backup keeper, and Jacob Murphy, that probably cost some in wages or loan fees, in from Newcastle with David Bates on loan as well. Lee Bullen takes the first 6 games. He loses 3 of them. However, he wins 3 of them. So a reasonable start, all set up, and here he comes, Gary Monk, who I think this was his 5th championship job possibly. Sorry if it says it in the article there. Only 40 years old still. Monk had been at Birmingham the previous season, done pretty well, and then a 9-point FFP deduction at Birmingham kind of derailing the end of their season. More of that later on. So in he comes at Sheffield Wednesday and does really well. That is 17 games worth there. 2, 4, 6, 8 wins, 3 defeats, 6 draws in there. Really good stuff from Monk to start with, as you'd imagine. Goes in, gets them playing, knows the league, knows the players, experienced despite only being 40. And by the time we get to Christmas, look at that. Superb first half of the season from Sheffield Wednesday. 3rd position. There is a sense it's very much a best of the rest 3rd position with Leeds and West Brom miles out. And 3rd place, we would expect to be touching 1.9, 2 points per game, but nowhere near really. So some sense best of the rest. But 3rd place is 3rd place. It's a race at the end of the day, and you're the 3rd best team there if you're Sheffield Wednesday at Christmas time. Brilliant stuff, all looking lovely, except, I don't know, this seems to follow poor Gary Monk around because it's nothing to do with him. An FFP charge for Sheffield Wednesday pertaining to the sale of their stadium, Hillsborough. That's fine. The issue the EFL had is which year of the books did Wednesday put it in. The EFL arguing that it should have been put in the 2018-19 financial year. It was put in the 2017-18. If it's in the wrong year, they would have breached FFP and therefore they would be entitled to a points deduction. And that, as we know with the EFL, is going to take 8 months. So we're going to park that and run. But always in the back of your head, lawyers, lawyering away, if that's a word. With that being said, not much action in terms of money spent there, but Connor Wickham and Josh Windass brought in on loan to pep up the attacking positions. Monk, over his career, has got the best out strikers. Michu, Chris Wood, Che Adams, all doing their best work under Gary Monk. Thornley and Baker out to League One and League Two, but the results are dreadful after Christmas. A strange outlier there, winning away at eventual runaway champions Leeds there. However, 5 defeats there in the first 6 games after Christmas and only 1 win in 3, 6, 9, 11 games. Also, a couple of big collapses at home. Okay, red cards in each game, but 5-0 at home to Blackburn, 3-0 at home to Reading. That won't play well in front of your own supporters. An important win there against Charlton just to stop the rot. And Charlton, along with Sheffield Wednesday and Birmingham, are the teams that are going to, and Hull, are the teams that are going to go off a cliff in the second half of the season. So good to get that 3 points on. But go into lockdown, another heavy 5-0 defeat, which actually kickstarts Brentford's massive winning run. Is lockdown going to help? No, not at all. 2 little splurges there of 4 points in 2 games gives the 8 points, which is just enough to kind of keep Sheffield Wednesday in mid-table. But another 5 defeats in there. A really, really bad second half of the season. It lands Sheffield Wednesday in 16th spot there. 8 points above the relegation zone. However, totally Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde here, because Sheffield Wednesday, over the second half of the season, were comfortably the second worst team there. You look at a point per game to avoid relegation. Well, Charlton upwards managed to do that, 23 points. Birmingham miss it, they get 22. And then you have to take off 5 points there to get to Sheffield Wednesday. And Hull, who completely collapsed to around 0.5 points per game there after selling Bowen and Grzycki. So, very worrying if you're a Sheffield Wednesday fan, because they were literally, statistically, the 3rd best team in the first half of the season and the 2nd worst team in the second half of the season. If you're a Sheffield Wednesday fan and you can figure that out, please get involved in the comments, because that is an almighty disparity. If your team finishes in 16th position, you would think that generally you, every 5 games you won 1, drew a couple, lost a couple. Not played really well for an entire half of the season and really badly for an entire half of the season. Here's what the on-pitch picture looks like. Look at the top right there, the appearances there. Bannon Harris and Iorfa all over 40, kind of the backbone of the team. Iorfa coming in as centre-half with Burner and Palmer, the other mainstays in the team. Fletcher top scorer there on 13 and Murphy on 9, who was borrowed. Dominant in the air, Lees and Fletcher and Mayhew. Bannon, as ever, top assists. Top ratings maker in the Who Scored metric, whatever you think of that, whether you believe in that, is Stephen Fletcher. So, a couple of issues here. That Mayhew has never quite been sustainable as a player, plays well for a few games, gets a new contract, doesn't look fit, plays badly for a few games. Inconsistent, I think. Jordan Rhodes, they seem to have been trying to get rid of that contract off their books for years. Obviously, Murphy, the second top scorer, was borrowed. And now we look and we know that Morgan Fox and Stephen Fletcher have both gone out to Stoke City. So it is slightly worrying. How long can Bannon keep being the top performer in that team? People like Bannon and Reach. So possibly worrying now going into next season, given that the entire of the second half of the season, they were a relegation team. And they've lost a couple of players. We can talk about new players coming in, of course. And we should now mention that it was minus 12 points deducted. Now, you can comment on my other videos on this, so I don't want this to get into an FFP. What season should Sheffield Wednesday have been deducted? The points from the board, the Independent Disciplinary Commission ruled that it would not have been right and proper to deduct the points from Sheffield Wednesday this season. Frankly, because Birmingham had a chance to react and Wednesday wouldn't have. And also, I just feel personally that if the EFL signed off the accounts and it's delayed because of the EFL, well, it kind of feels unfair to arbitrarily then pick a time you're charging. Fair enough if they'd found it straight away and told them they were guilty. But anyway, I do not want to get into that. The fact of the matter is 12 points have been deducted for next season, although given how incompetent the EFL seem to have come across, I wouldn't put it past the lawyers of Sheffield Wednesday being able to have those points backdated to 2018-19, where they finished 24 points above the relegation zone and not actually having a points deduction. We'll see on that, but please get your comments in on my other videos about that. This is a review of Wednesday's 1920 season, and I've tried to, as ever, put some bullet points, some themes here of the season. So the first one is a late managerial change, which on the surface you'd say is completely unhelpful. It allows you no chance to plan, no chance to recruit, and you would think would be an excuse for poor performance in the season. However, given the late managerial change, they were excellent up until Christmas. So this is all very peculiar and very, very confusing because really I can't argue that the late managerial change affected the first half of the season in any way. And then if it didn't affect the first half of the season, then surely we can't blame the second half collapse on the late managerial change. So what I normally would consider a problem didn't appear to be a problem. We have to speak about the FFP charge. We don't know the inner workings and what was going on. Did things change after the FFP charge? Was Monk told now, different things. We're scuppered for transfers. All of this changes. Change your plans now. You can do a loan in January, but that's about it. I don't know, probably unless you work for the club and are a higher up at boardroom level. We probably don't know. Was it hanging over Monk? Was it hanging over the squad? I don't know. It's all a possibility. What we do know is there's no way an FFP charge can help. So with that hanging over them and being investigated. Then we get the New Year decline. Again, reasons for that, I don't know. I'm sure if you're a Sheffield Wednesday fan, you'll know more about this than me. And I would invite you into the comments. Please posit your theories as to how a team can be third best in the league for one half of the season. And then without any sort of discernible injuries or sales, am I right? Be the second worst team in the league. That doesn't make sense. Please get your theories in for that. In bigger terms, when I think of Sheffield Wednesday and Chancery particularly, I do always hark back to May 2016 and losing that playoff final to Hull. And I think Chancery had gone all in. Money had been spent. I always remember Wednesday having Gary Hooper and Forestieri and Zhao and Fletcher and having spent a lot of money and not quite making it. And I think he went all in and they're still paying the price now on that gamble, because we all know if you don't have parachute money and you try and get out of this division by going toe-to-toe, spending-wise and recruitment-wise, it's a gamble. And if you do not make it up, then trouble ensues financially. And we've seen teams that have tried to do that. Well, look, Chansiri and Mel Morris are the guys that have tried to do that, and they've both been investigated for FFP, although it's my duty to say now that Derby obviously were not guilty of any infractions as found by the Independent Disciplinary Commission. Not my words, theirs. Please don't come at me in the comments. So what next? So here's the issue, is that you have a team that seems to have been on a club, really, that seems to have been on a historical downturn, really, since losing that playoff final and then Carvajal missing out the next season as well. They made the playoffs next season as well, didn't they? And lost in the semis when it was Huddersfield and Reading got to the final. So it's a gentle decline down to where we are now. Stadium sale, FFP charge, managers coming and going, etc. That's not good. That's the direction of travel seems to be away from the top six rather than towards it. That can all change. Obviously, all it takes, as I always say, is one lightning in a bottle season, 2 years of good recruitment, 2 years of good coaching and pattern of play, or a general accumulation of all of those things. And you can right that. It's not to say that that trend is irreversible. However, given we have to look at the most recent sample size of the second half of the season, and it wasn't good at all. And now you've taken out Fox from there, you've taken out Fletcher from there, you've taken out Murphy from there. There have been signings. Izzy Brown has come, Josh Windass has come, and Dunkley as well. Am I missing one out? I think I'm missing one out. Correct me in the comments if I've missed one out. So maybe that has been written, but does that just put them to back where they were for the second half of last season in terms of personnel? I don't know. And as always, I come at these videos from a position of I am an outsider. So please, if you are a Sheffield Wednesday fan, you may well know more about me, more about this than me, excuse me. So do get involved in the comments. Please don't shout at me. Let's make it a discussion and try and educate me if you feel you do know more. Because sometimes, particularly with clubs where things haven't been going well, I talk about their club quite honestly and their fans just shout at me, and it's not very nice really, is it? So let's get a discussion going about this. What next for Sheffield Wednesday? And particularly, is the 12 points a death sentence? I don't know. They might be fine. I've calculated a point per game. They need 58 points essentially to survive, and they might well get there. They might be comfortably 65, which would normally be top half, and that would keep them away from the relegation zone. I don't know. Nobody knows. We don't have crystal balls, but I'm sure if you're a Sheffield Wednesday fan, you can make a pretty educated assumption and tell me in the comments. So, look, I've called the video Sheffield Wednesday, a season of two halves. Maybe coloured by FFP. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. As I say, I come from a position of respect. Sheffield Wednesday is a great club traditionally, and I'm just saying what I saw. So there doesn't have to be a takedown or a debate or a zing. You don't have to be mean in the comments. Let's just have a discussion, even if you do disagree with what I have said and concluded. Right. A few plugs quickly. Please interact, as I've said in the comments. Be nice. Hit the thumbs up button. I would love that. I put a lot of time and effort into these videos, so a simple like is very helpful. And subscribe to the channel. 11,837 subscribers or something. You can join our fantasy league if you're new here. T5QBR0, and you can listen to all of these shows as a podcast if you do not want to look at my face. I'm trying to do this full time because I'm a crazy man, so I do need financial support. As I say, I have 11,000 subscribers, not 111,000. If I had 111,000, I wouldn't be asking for your help, but I don't. So you can help me out. Shop at Amazon, amazon.co.uk/shop/the Benjamin Bloom Football Channel. Pick out any of the products from any of the lists I've made. I get a little kickback, you get the product, everyone's a winner, as Hot Chocolate said. You can subscribe via Patreon for $3 a month. You're basically donating to the channel for the price of a cup of coffee. But for $5 a month, you get my supplementary bonus Patreon-only exclusive content, Q&A weekly, and Patreon exclusive vlogs. And you can sponsor the channel, either a fan sponsorship, which is just the series of videos, a specific series. 2 of those are gone, 6 left. And you can sponsor as a business if you run a small business. And you would like to see your logo and a shout out on every video. And we reached 500,000 people over this past 3 months. Then well worth doing. Anyway, enough of my pluggery, skullduggery, whatever you want to call it. Please get your comments in on Sheffield Wednesday, a very complex season of 2 halves. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video. Over and out.